Vishnupada Krishna Vista Bhuttali Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pachayane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasadhara Satarane Vanshakapa Tuvasa Kripa Sinubevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shri Vasadi Go Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. To begin with, I would like to ask you to take your chairs and move closer. I'm a personalist. I like to connect with my audience so I can see your smiling faces better. Come on, get out of your hidden corners there. Yes, so this is so much better. Everybody moving closer. Everybody. Hare Krishna. So this is so much nicer. Good. So is everybody comfortable with English? Is there anybody who cannot understand English? I guess you should ask it in Tamil. If I ask in English, they can't understand. Just ask. Is anybody? Two people. So then maybe we can have parallel translation in the back and not sentence by sentence. You don't have translator? All right, no problem. Then sorry. I mean, I was scheduled to actually speak sentence by sentence with translation. So surely there must be a translator, no? All right, not sure? Okay, no problem, then we'll just do it in English. Gives me more speaking time. Good. Yes, so maybe I should introduce myself a little bit because some of you maybe are meeting me first time. So I am originally from Germany, but I have not lived there for over 40 years. So I traveled the world looking for a higher purpose to life, and then I met Krishna consciousness in Australia, in Sydney, in 1985. So that's a bit more than 40 years ago. And I immediately realized this is what I had been looking for. So after 1 week of meeting the devotees, I moved into the ladies' ashram. In the Western world, we have ladies' ashrams so that the women can also get some training. And I was 4 years in the ashram there, getting very good training. There was many Prabhupada disciples there at that time. And then I was married for 10 years, and in that time we pioneered the first more organized temple in the former Soviet Union. So this was a big adventure, very dynamic, and I learned so many things there. So and then 1999, my husband decided to take a break from me and from Krishna consciousness. And since 1999, I'm constantly traveling, living out of a suitcase. And I spent 5 months per year preaching in India and Bangladesh, and 7 months per year all around the world. South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, America, Mauritius, Kenya, all around Europe, so many countries. And I have 2 humble missions. One of them is the Holy Name, I will conduct a Holy Name retreat in December. No need, they will not be able to read it anyway. I have a poster there, so if anybody is interested to join us, that's 24th to 28th of December in ISKCON Chennai. Who has been to ISKCON Chennai? Not so many. So you have to come. Nityananda's birthplace, very special place. So we spent 4 nighs there, and I take my audience through a whole journey in connection with the Holy Name. Not only japa, but kirtan also. And then my second humble mission is, let me explain. Anybody here from Bangladesh? I heard you have a whole group of Bangladeshi devotees here. Nobody. So over the last 25 years, I've been very involved in Bangladesh. And Bangladesh, East Bengal, very special place. There's many holy places there. Even Advaita Chaya, Srivas Thakur, Pundarik Vidyanidhi, Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, they all come from Bangladesh, East Bengal. So, and our Vaishnava culture has really been preserved there more than anywhere else in the world. So when I'm traveling there, I always feel like I'm entering Chaitanya Charitamrita. Yes, very amazing. And they're very Mahaprabhu conscious there. Because actually Jagannath Mishra, Sachimata, they also come from what is today Bangladesh. And Sachimata conceived Mahaprabhu in her womb when she was there. And only 2 months before she gave birth, they moved over to Navadvip. So all the Hindus in Bangladesh, they have this mood. This is Mahaprabhu Desh, the country where Mahaprabhu appeared. And he did, in Sachimata's womb. You know? Yes, and they know exactly what Mahaprabhu likes and which shak is his favorite and how he was eating it, and, you know. So, and because I've been involved there for 25 years, I learned so many things there. In fact, my whole view of the world got put upside down. And I started understanding the sweetness and beauty of our Vaishnava culture. And I realized that we need a little bit of training and education in order to learn how to live what Prabhupada is giving us in his books. So Prabhupada's books, they are the law books for the next 10,000 years. But often the law books are a little complex and not so easy to understand. So that's why we need some additional complementary literature to understand how to live according to the law. So, and these realizations inspired me to establish an institute for spiritual culture. And I'm based in Mayapur. I give some courses there. In January, I've got the course scheduled there also. And now I'm putting these courses in book form. So whatever books you see here, each book is a 15-hour course. Very useful for preachers. All you have to do is read 1-2 chapters, take some notes, or Prabhupada's quotes are there, ready as your seminar. So many devotees all around the world, they use these books for preaching, for training devotees. Yeah, very effective in all practical application. So at the end of our session, I will share a few words about each book, hoping that maybe some of you will feel inspired to get some. So now our topic for today is the false ego. our constant companion and troublemaker. So let me share what inspired me to give more attention to this topic. Because as I shared, I've been conducting holy name retreats for many years, and one day the realization hit me that unless we make also effort to subdue and dissolve the false ego parallel to our effort to chant, then our chanting can be compared to an elephant taking bath. So what's the elephant doing when he comes out of the water? He takes the trunk, throws all the dirt back on his back. So that's exactly what we do. That after our efforts to get on deeper levels of chanting, we fall back into our false ego patterns of behaviors. And we are so trapped there because for so many lifetimes we have been carrying this false ego with us, so many lifetimes. So it's very deep-rooted and very subtle. So, and as we know, Mahaprabhu told us, Trinadapi Chennai, so we can actually chant the holy name only if we are in a humble frame of mind. So false ego, we have to work on that parallel to our efforts of getting on deeper levels of chanting. Otherwise, we are not getting anywhere. Right? Makes sense? Yes. Yes. So, and a few more observations inspired me to give some attention to this topic. Interestingly, the bigger the false ego is, the less we recognize it. Yes. You would think it should be the other way around, right? The bigger and more prominent it is, the more easily we should see it. But no, it's not like that. And I once had this funny little episode with one Mataji who has a very prominent and dominant false ego. And because of that, she always gets herself into conflicts and trouble. And then one day she was a little frustrated and she turned to me and opened her heart a little bit and, sharing her frustrations. So I thought, okay, let me try and give her a little hint. And I was very careful because I know false ego doesn't like to be poked. So I was very careful and I said, well, you know how false ego always gets us into trouble. That's what I said. And her reaction, she was laughing, saying, oh, come on, false ego, what's that? I don't have that. That's what she said. And I was shocked. I thought, how is it possible? Somebody with such a big and prominent false ego thinks, I don't have a false ego. But that's exactly what happens. The bigger it is, it blocks our ears, blocks our intelligence. We can't see, we can't understand. Yeah. And I was so shocked, I didn't know what to say. So the only little comment I made was that I said, I wish I could say that about myself, that I don't have a false ego. I wish I could say that. That's all I said. So it's really like that. In our more neophyte stage, we can't even identify the ego. It takes actually a little bit of purification because it's so subtle, and as we get purified, we become more perceptive to these subtle things And then the more we get purified, the more we realize, oh my God, false ego, every day it gets into my way. Every day. Yeah. Yes, and also once I was giving this seminar in Vrindavan over several sessions, and then afterwards one Mataji came up to me and she said, oh, thank you for offering the seminar. Now I understand that I actually have a false ego. And she was saying, before I was always thinking this is just some philosophical, theoretical thing which has no relevance to me. But now I understand. And she'd been practicing Krishna consciousness for 20, 25 years. You know, so after 25 years, only because of the seminar she realized, oh, okay, I've got a false ego and I have to do some work. So this is how it can go, you know, that we don't even identify it. And in fact, we can really miss the whole target of Krishna consciousness. That instead of subduing and dissolving the false ego, we can very nicely boost it and feed it and massage each other's false ego. You massage mine, I massage yours. It's all happening. Yes, in the name of Krishna consciousness. Yes. And I guess that's what Rupa Goswami is warning us about. That he says, the bhakti lata and the weeds, they just look exactly the same. Desire for name, fame, adoration, this is all false ego, you know? Yes, so very easily we water the weeds, you know? So and that's why Rupa Goswami says we have to become an expert gardener to discover what is the weed and what's the bhakti lata. Otherwise we can miss the whole point of Krishna consciousness, you know, yes. So it's quite a relevant topic, yes. All right, so let us understand. False ego in a nutshell means that we think ourselves to be something which we are not. Right? Yeah. So many things we think ourselves to be, which we are not. And if there is a false ego, then there also has to be a real ego. Right? So what's the real ego? Yes, Jiva Svabhava Krishnaya Nityadas. I'm servant of the servant. That's our true identity. Being servant, you know? Yes, but we think ourselves to be so many other things. Master, enjoyer, controller. Oh, you know, we like to control. Yes. So, and let us also remember that the soul is covered by the gross body, made from earth, water, fire, air, ether. And then there is the subtle body, mind, intelligence. Here we have it, false ego. So the false ego is the most subtle element of the subtle material body. And as we said, it's so subtle that most of the time we don't even identify it. And we also know that at the moment of death, the soul leaves the gross body behind, and on the subtle body of mind, intelligence, false ego, the soul travels to the next destination, right? So it means the same subtle body we have been carrying with us for so many lifetimes. Oh my God, so many lifetimes. We can understand it to be like a computer chip where so much information is stored, so many impressions, so many experiences, so many desires and attachments. Oh my God, very deep. And if we want to get out of the material world, then the subtle body has to be completely transformed and spiritualized. All the material impressions, attachments, experiences, desires, they have to be replaced with spiritual attachments, experiences, desires. And that's a big job. It requires a lot of internal work. See, very often we take Krishna consciousness very externally. You know? We just go externally through the motions, rather ritualistic. We do all our little pujas and this and that and this and that. And then we think, oh yeah, I've done my little bit for the day. But we don't do that internal transformational work. So bhakti is meant to bring about a whole transformation. We are meant to transform our likes, our dislikes, you know, our worldviews, our patterns of behaviors, our very heart, you know, so that bhakti can grow there. And we have to actually, you know, give up a little bit this conditionings. I am Gujarati, I am Tamil, I am this, I am that. My God, we are not these designations. You know, sometimes people are really caught in this little box. You know, and we so deeply identify with this. My goodness, you know, and what we think is our nature, it's actually not our nature, it's our luggage we are carrying. The real nature of us as spirit souls is something completely different. Yes, yes. But we are hanging on to this luggage, you know? And that's why usually people of the same nationality and being born in the same area, they understand each other very nicely because they carry the same luggage. Oh, he carries the Tamil luggage. Okay, I'm also carrying the Tamil luggage. So then we can connect very nicely, you know? Or I'm carrying the Russian luggage. Oh yes, yeah, we carry the same luggage. We understand each other, you know? Or the Bengali luggage, but we have to conquer beyond that. Yes, because we are not Tamil, Gujarati, Russian, German, whatever, you know. It's just one lifetime we are in that situation. But the more we actually become purified and free from the influence of false ego, the less we identify with this. And the more we can connect with anybody, no matter what luggage they're carrying. Right? Yes. Especially when we want to preach a little bit, you know, we have to be beyond this luggage of nationality, you know. And sometimes I come across people, they say, well, I'm from North India. I can only marry somebody who comes from North India because in South India they eat different things. You know, my God, what should I say? I'm from Germany, you know. So we eat very different things than what you eat here. But yeah, we have to be a little flexible and shake off this luggage, you know, and be able to adapt to different tastes and habits and so on, yes. Otherwise we really hang on to our luggage, but we want to throw it overboard if we want to go back to Godhead, with the Gujarati and Tamil and Bengali luggage. No room for that in the spiritual world. We have to come back, yes. So we all have a lot of work to do to actually shake off this luggage. I always make this joke, I say, when we fly back to Godhead, the luggage allowance is 0. When you fly Indigo, the cheap tickets is 15 kilos check-in luggage. If you pay a little extra, you get 20 kilos. Then you have 7 kilos hand luggage. On the way back to Godhead, 0. So we have to dissolve it all, throw it overboard. Yes. Yeah, so back to the false ego. Just like in the gross body, earth, water, fire, air, ether, you show me where's the earth in your body, or the fire, or the ether. You can't. It's all mixed, right? So similarly, it is there with the subtle body also. Mind, intelligence, false ego, they all affect each other backwards and forwards. Very hard to really separate them. Of course, false ego is the most subtle part of the subtle body, and in many ways it's the root of material existence, because we have this false identification. And that affects, the mind and the intelligence, backwards and forwards. So it's all mixed there, And false ego already affects us at very young age. Small child. I remember once I met one family, their daughter was 1. She couldn't even talk yet, but she could walk. And while I was talking to the parents in the lounge room, the girl was bringing all her toys from her room to the lounge room. And I didn't think it was such a special thing. But then the mother said, she is showing off her toys because you are here. And I thought, oh my God, that's already when we start showing off. Can't even talk yet. And behind her activities was, my toys are so special, and because they're my toys, that's why I am so special. Yes, that's false ego, showing off my toys. And the toys for the kid is the first possession. That's why they often fight over the toys. I know one family in Australia, they have twins. They always fight over the toys, They're 2.5, 3 years old now. For hours. My toy, my toy. All these false ego battles there already at younger stage, So, and then as we gradually grow up, we accept all these upadhis, these designations that we think ourselves to be. Yes, I'm a boy, I'm a girl, I'm a good boy, I'm a clever boy, I'm a naughty boy, I'm a pretty girl. We accept all these designations. We have to be very careful. We should never label the kids, say, oh, you are foolish, you are this, you are that, because then the kids accept that as their identity, and they develop all kinds of unhealthy patterns of behaviors because of that. And often it traumatizes people when they hear these things as a child all the time. You're useless, you're hopeless, you know. Very, very careful we have to be that we don't do this, you know. So, and then the child grows up a little more. All right, now I'm a student. I am IT student, medical student, engineering student, whatever. I'm a good student, I'm a bad student, and so, and then maybe we get married, so now I'm a husband, I'm wife, I'm father, I'm mother. And even when we join Krishna consciousness, it doesn't stop there, you know? It doesn't stop there. I'm a brahmachari, I'm a paka brahmachari, I'm a spaced out brahmachari, and I'm a good grihasta, I'm, not such a good grihasta, I am this, that, the other thing, I'm a head pujari, I'm the Sankirtan leader, I'm the temple president, I'm a Bhakti Viksha leader. You know, we identify with all these roles. So certainly, as we go through life, we all have so many roles we are playing, right? That's very natural. So at home we have a certain role, in the office, at work we have a certain role, in the temple we have a different role. So that is very natural. But the problem is that we identify with these roles. We think this is me. So the roles, we can say they are like caps we are wearing, you know. But usually we don't identify so much with the caps, you know. Of course, if it's a very fancy, unusual one, then maybe also, this hat becomes a part of me, and if I lose it, oh my God, I lost a part of me, my special hat. But as a rule, we don't get so, you know, we don't identify so deeply with a hat. But with these roles, we do identify very deeply. So now my question to you, why do we identify with these roles? Of course, one reason is out of ignorance, right? Because we identify with the body. But what other reason is there? Why do we identify with these roles? Who can understand that? Yes? Attachment. And why do we get attached? Huh? Ignorance, we want to control. Yeah, so what do these roles give us? Sense of security, sense of something else. Satisfaction. Yes, we get this sense of importance. I am somebody. Well, yes, I am somebody. And that's exactly what the false ego likes to enjoy. The sense of importance. Yes. That's why we get attached, you know? Yes. Yeah. And of course, the more prominent the role is we have to play, false ego likes it. Oh, you know, I'm this, I'm that, I won't mention what, not to upset anybody here. But yeah, the more prominent, the more we stand in the limelight, the more it feeds the false ego with that gratification. I'm somebody very important. right? Yes. So that's the whole thing. Well, maybe we do a 2-minute personal exercise that you just turn to your neighbor and you share which is your favorite cap you're most attached to, which is your role which you're most attached to, that giving up this role is almost worse than death. You share with each other. Turn to your neighbor, share something. What role are you most attached to? Just to, become a little more conscious of these things. Share something. Okay, Guru Premanandi. So for ladies, very often, I am a mother. That's a pretty deep one, isn't it? Yes, because mothers sacrifice so much. Yes, Prabhupada says, mother's love to her children is the purest form of love we can find in this material world. So mothers are sacrificing so much, so therefore this role becomes very deeply ingrained in the heart. But Prabhupada also says, when the child is 15, 16, we have to take off this I am the mother's hat. And it's usually more the positions, in life, in the temple or at work, which gives us a sense of achievement and being somebody. Even here we don't have any brahmacharis in saffron, but I am a brahmachari. That can be a pretty big one, because wearing saffron especially, there's quite a bit of glory coming along with it, Yes, I am a brahmachari. I've seen it, how so difficult it is for a man to move on and change ashrams, even though he knows exactly, I am not properly situated, my mind is disturbed, I'm looking at the ladies and. But still, whenever we have this thought, what will everybody think now about me? That is the false ego whispering into our ears. Oh, what will everybody think? No, you can't do this. Everybody will think you are fallen, you're in Maya, and. Yeah, so whenever that thought comes up, what is everybody thinking about me? False ego, guaranteed. Yes, so now also Prabhupada gives a nice analogy in the Bhagavatam. He says, life in the material world is like a nonsensical stage performance. Nonsensical stage performance. Prabhupada's combination of terms is often very unique. And that's a good reason why everybody should learn enough English to read Prabhupada's books in English. Yeah. I never read the Bhagavatam in German. Ugh, it sounds all weird and strange to me. It's not, for me, it's not Prabhupada. But when you read it in English, you know, Prabhupada's English is very special, very unique, very sweet. And when you translate, you lose that special sweetness. Yeah, you lose. It's like when we change money. Every time we change the currency, we lose. Right? So same thing with translation. The special thing is lost. Yeah. So I highly recommend everybody to really learn enough English to relish Prabhupada's unique English. You know? Yeah. Yeah, so the nonsensical stage performance. This is really what life is in the material world. You know? Every lifetime we can imagine being on the stage like me now. So one lifetime I'm in a Tamil man's body. And I'm running, or I have so many important things to do. I'm so busy. And then death comes and the curtain closes. Show is over. It's all finished. And then next life, I'm in a German woman's body, if you're unlucky. So, and again, we really take it in. Oh, I'm so busy, I have so many important things to do. Running. And then again, show is over, curtain closes. It's all finished. And then maybe next life, dog in Sweden. Dogs also have dog's mind, dog's intelligence, dog's false ego. Oh, dogs have a huge false ego, you know? Barking, biting, get out of here, this is my property, what do you want? You know? Yeah, that's false ego. And I saw more and more it is becoming now common in India that people also have dogs in their houses. Just yesterday, I walked past a house, there was about 4 or 5 dogs inside the house. You know, barking and doing a whole thing there. As Prabhupada said, instead of worshipping God, G-O-D, we are worshipping dog, D-O-G. You know, it's happening now in India too. Yeah, so dogs have a huge false ego, you know? Yes. So like that, nonsensical stage performance, you know, like some crazy circus. And we think that is reality, but it's not. It's a very temporary, flickering reality, like in a dream. Actual reality, what is eternal reality? Let me ask you, what is eternal reality? Huh? What? Our service, our eternal relationship, my relationship with Krishna, that is eternal reality. That's the only thing we are allowed to keep at the moment of death. My relationship with Krishna. Everything else will be taken away. Good to remember this sometimes, that all these things which are now so important to us, our family, our house, paying off the mortgage, this, that, at the moment of death, zero significance, no importance whatsoever. Yeah. So, and then sometimes when we are facing death, we may be lamenting, oh, I blew it again. Again, I blew it. I put so much time and energy in so many other things But that's all unimportant now. And I did not give enough attention and energy to my relationship with Krishna. Yeah, we may be lamenting. So good to remember this sometimes, that the only wealth we are allowed to keep at the moment of death is my relationship with Krishna. That's eternal wealth. Everything else will be mercilessly stripped away from us. Yeah, so, and of course it is the false ego which entangles us in this nonsensical stage performance, you know, and like that life goes on, lifetime after lifetime. And of course also, if we think ourselves to be something which we are not, can we be peaceful? No, we can't. Yes. Because we always have to pretend to be something which we are actually not. Yeah. We can imagine an example. Let's say we are the cleaner in a big company. And then one day we say, actually, I'm the director. That would be a nightmare, you know. How will I make everybody believe that I'm the director? And what if they find out that I'm actually not the director? It would be a nightmare. So much anxiety. And then after a few days we say, actually, I was just joking, I'm the cleaner. Oh, thank God. I don't have to pretend to be something which I'm not, right? So same thing is there with the false ego. As we gradually become a little more purified and we more deeply understand our position of servant, proportionally, we actually become more peaceful. Because we don't have to convince everybody around us that we are something which we are not. You know, we don't have to pretend and all that, you know. Yes. Yes, so there is a few more things I want to present, but let me just see, do we have any questions about what we discussed so far? Only what we discussed so far. Is there any questions, anything that needs more explanation or something? Do we have a second mic? Mr. Sound System. Second mic.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for session.
Just speak properly and loud.
I have wondered that if false ego is that much subtle, it is very subtle. We are unable to identify it properly. Then how can we overcome it?
How can we?
Overcome it.
Well, good question. That's why we need a counselor. We need this more experienced, well-wishing friend who guides us on a very regular basis. I have a whole book about that. Just having Diksha Guru or Shiksha Guru, not enough. Because our gurus have hundreds and thousands of disciples. They cannot possibly know each and every person's individual practical situation. So we need this well-wishing friend who is more experienced than we are and who has no other interest except our spiritual development and growth. And by this friend, we also want to be corrected by him because we know he simply wants us to grow. He wants our very best. Such a person is extremely relevant, extremely important for all of us. Even in the Bhagavatam, Bharat Maharaj, actually his problem was that he didn't have a counselor. That was his problem. He was all alone there in the forest, and he was on the level of bhava, where you feel transcendental emotions. And even on that level, the transcendental emotions, they can turn back into material attachment. That's what happened to him. He didn't have anybody who said, hey, it's enough now with the deer. Let the deer be deer and go back to your sadhana. So that should be a warning to us all, that it doesn't matter how advanced we may be, we need such a well-wishing friend. That's the whole thing. Because false ego, yeah, we can't identify it in the beginning stage. We can't. And actually it's like that. As long as we have some material desires and attachments, we cannot objectively assess ourselves. We can't see where we stand because our vision of ourselves is clouded, it's distorted. Very important topic. Such an important topic that I wrote a whole book about it. Yes. Okay, good question. What else? Anything else? Here we have one question.
Hare Krishna Mataji. So you were saying that there's a lot of internal work we have to do to overcome the false ego. So what is it that we actually have to do?
Yeah, in the very first session I don't even talk about this yet, because we are not quite there yet. We haven't discussed all different patterns of false ego behavior. But let me briefly respond to it anyway. Like, for example, I mean, in the book you will read so many things, you know. Yeah. So there's one important rule of Vaishnava etiquette which helps us to dissolve the false ego. And that is that we should not defend ourselves. Because when we defend, who or what do we defend? False ego. Yes. So the etiquette is we should not defend ourselves, but when we see somebody else badly treated, then we should step in and defend that person. And if everybody would follow the Vaishnava etiquette, then there would be no need to defend ourselves, because surely somebody would step up and say something. But unfortunately, usually we all do the opposite of what we really should be doing. You know? We defend ourselves very strongly every day, answering back, finding excuses, blaming others. These are all subtle ways of defense. You know, blaming other people, blaming the external situation. Oh, in married life, it's a classic. You know, the wife blames the husband blames the wife. You know, in other words, we say, I'm okay, I'm fine, it's all the other person. That's why married life is so intensely purifying. Because unless you really are willing to accept guidance and work on yourself, it will be difficult to keep a marriage going. You know? Yes. So just see what all of you who are not married, what you're missing out on. All that intense purification. You know, I once heard the statement, 30 years of Grihastha ashram and you will be a pure devotee. But it has to be Grihastha ashram, which is also a whole topic. I've got a book about that too. You know, how do we actually create this culture of bhakti in our home, that it is a suitable place for cultivating bhakti? You know, many married devotees' home life, we can't call it an ashram. It's not a suitable place for bhakti. You know, yeah. Whole different topic, different seminar. What was the question? Oh yeah.
The internal work.
Back to defending. So now comes the answer. I like to give 5 steps. Let's imagine, you know, and usually I discuss this in all detail, this etiquette of not defending and. So let us imagine after we hear this, we start realizing, oh my God, I'm defending all the time, you know, and I never even knew that I shouldn't be doing this and. So there's 5 steps which are very simple, very practical, and they really work whenever we want to do this internal transformational work of transforming some unwanted patterns of behaviors. Whether that's lust or envy, false ego, it doesn't matter. These 5 steps always work. Step number 1 is we have to hear about the topic. That's why I like to discuss them. Actually, on Tuesday morning during the Bhagavatam class, I will give my last session here. If you can't come, then please watch it online. We will talk about envy. How envy manifests towards seniors, equals, juniors. Very interesting discussion. Envy, false ego, they're good friends. They always like to move around together, you know. Inseparable friends. So yeah. Anyway, there in that discussion, people also realize, oh my God, I never even knew how envious I am. You know, I've got it all towards seniors equals juniors. Okay, I better do some work here, you know. So, these 5 steps, very practical. Hearing is the first step. By hearing, we become more conscious. We wake up from our deep sleep and we realize, oh my God, you know, I really have to do some work there. After hearing comes step number 2, desiring. Then we realize, unless I do something, I will never be able to reach Goloka Vrindavan. So I better do something. Intense desire to kick out this false ego and. Then step number 3, we are introspective and honest, always reflecting, looking in our heart. Why did I say this? Why did I do this? What just took place in this exchange? Why do I have this bad feeling in the heart? And so we constantly have to reflect and introspect. Unless we reflect and introspect, we actually cannot make advancement. Yeah. It has to become our second nature. Because the contaminated intelligence always finds the justification. Why we are right, everything is okay with me, it's all the other people. Like that, we cannot purify our heart. Then we commit the 10th offense, to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. You know, the subtle attachment to this ego gratification. Yeah. And at that step, step 3, again, we need the help of a counselor. Alone, we may not even identify these things. So we need the help of a well-wishing friend who guides us. Hey, introspect, look in your heart. You know, you're a bit too much on the ego platform here. you know, and yeah. We need that well-wishing friend who we want to be corrected by, especially as we become a little senior. There's sometimes nobody in our life who can tell us anything, you know. Nobody dares to correct us. Dangerous position. You know Vaisheshika Prabhu, charismatic preacher. He has this motto, we live to be corrected. There's always something that needs to be corrected. So if we don't want anybody to correct us, oh well, then most likely we invite stagnation into our life. You know? Yes. Yeah. And again, who rebels when somebody corrects us? False ego. You know, who are you to tell me? You know, false ego, you know. Yes, we should be grateful. Thank you for helping me to see my faults, you know. Yes. It's like, let's imagine you had something with tomato paste for, you know, you ate a pizza and your face is all smudged with tomato paste. So some people will not say anything. They will let you walk around with your funny face there, you know. But then a true friend says, hey, go to the bathroom, wash your mouth, you know, there's some tomato you've got on there, right? And it may be a little embarrassing. Okay, I better go and you know, yes. Yeah, so we should be corrected. So, step number 3, introspection and honesty. Then comes step number 4. We catch ourselves doing the wrong thing. That is already progress, because so many times we were doing the wrong thing, but we never even realized. So many times we were defending, but we didn't realize that actually we shouldn't do it. So catching ourselves doing the wrong thing, very important point. Then step number 5, what do we do after catching ourselves doing the wrong thing? What's the next step? What do you think? Huh? Well, if it was just so easy, but usually it's not. We try to correct ourselves, we make a firm resolution, I'm not going to do that again. 5 minutes later we do. So, what do we do?
Pray to Krishna.
Pray to Krishna, very true. Exactly, that's what we are meant to do. Crying out to Lord Nrsingadev. He is the expert heart surgeon with his long, sharp fingernails. Because, you know, envy, false ego, they're like little Hiranyakashipus in our heart. And as we said, we've been carrying them with us for so many lifetimes. We, out of our own strength, we don't have the power to uproot them. We have to invite Krishna, Lord Nrsingadev. Actually, Lord Nrsingadev prepares our heart so that one day we can approach Radha Krishna. That's Lord Nrsingadev's service. Yeah. So we should bitterly cry out to him, please get this Hiranyakashipu out of our heart. But our problem is that we have this hope that this false ego will also give us some juicy fruits to enjoy. And that's why we're hanging on to it. You know, we want to enjoy being the supreme controller, proprietor, showing off, you know. So that's the problem, you know. Yes, we have to really pray to him. And I mean, you may have heard about Gaur Govinda Maharaj, right? I actually met him. Pretty amazing personality. So he is saying an ISKCON temple is a crying school where we learn to cry out to Krishna. So here in Chennai you have a pretty nice crying school. So now we have to cry out to Krishna, we have to learn. Otherwise, what's the use? You know? Yes, it's like the essence of Krishna consciousness. So yes, and if we do these 3 steps again and again, that we are introspective and honest, we catch ourselves doing the wrong thing, we cry out to Lord Nrsimhadev, we are introspective and honest, catching ourselves doing the wrong thing, crying out to Lord Nrsimhadev, then sooner or later we come to step number 6. And that is that we catch ourselves doing the right thing. Some daily situation will come our way and we realize, oh, this time I could let it go. It didn't provoke me, I didn't have to make my nasty comment, I didn't have to defend, and I could just let it go by. And then we realize, wow, this works by the mercy of Krishna. So, and if we agree to do that internal work, that's actually when we make advancement. Yes, you know, making advancement is not some external thing that, oh, first initiation, second initiation, oh, now I have a position in the community and now I have 55,000 followers on Facebook and that's not advancement. Now, when we agree to do this internal work, that's when we actually progress. Yeah, very important topic. All right, time is going, or do we have any other burning question? Okay. Can we switch on the mic? So, what's happening?
Hare Krishna Mataji. See, the class was wonderful, Mataji. Thank you so much for the
Well, we haven't finished yet. I'm just having a little question answer. There's still a few important points coming.
Mataji, for understanding better, for people like us who are not, who are still in material life, can you take it this way, like anything, any activity beyond KC, Krishna consciousness, will lead to false ego? Can we take it that way?
I couldn't quite catch it, what you were saying.
Mataji, what I'm trying to do is, if somebody is in Krishna consciousness, if he's not in Krishna consciousness, if he's still not in Krishna consciousness and he's in material life, will that lead to false ego always?
Yes, of course. Of course. Right. You know, because we're in ignorance, we're thinking the body to be the self, we're completely caught up in the nonsensical stage performance, thinking that to be reality, and we defend and show off. And, you know, see, material life is all about feeding and boosting the false ego. Path of success is to show off, to promote yourself, you know. Any fool can become world famous overnight if he just learns the art of promoting himself. That's all false ego stuff, of course. The whole desire, I mean, in the nectar of devotion, Prabhupada makes one striking comment. He says, as long as we have a desire to become a more and more important person, either in the material sense or in the spiritual sense, we cannot really relish the really sweet taste of devotional service. Wow. When I read that the first time many years ago, it really hit me. And I thought to myself, I want to taste the real thing. I better give up my desire to become a more and more important person, because as long as I run after that desire, again, I maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions of this matter. And I'm simply tasting false ego gratification. That's all I'm running after. But I'm not tasting the really sweet taste of bhakti. Yeah. So Prabhupada says, even in the spiritual sense, when we want to become an important person, we are tasting something different. Actually, since Banu Swami is residing here, let me share a little story I had many years ago with them. The devotees from the Desire Tree website, you know, this is how many years? It was 2007. Vaishnav Seva Prabhu, who organizes the Desire Tree website, he asked me to ask different Mahajas for their recordings to put them on the website. So and I asked Banu Maharaj for some recordings where I find them. And his answer was, I don't know. I don't think my words are so important that everybody has to hear them. That was his answer. I thought, wow, okay, good, you know. That's free from false ego, you know. Not thinking my words are so important that everybody in the world has to hear my words. No interest, you know, yeah. Yeah, so... All right, let me share a couple more little things. I mean, there's so many things to share when I give the seminar in Mayapur. It's a 10, 12-hour seminar, you know. But I want to quickly touch upon one verse of the Bhagavad Gita, 1858. There Krishna gives us two options, two choices how to act. So, option number one, he says, if you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. That's option number one. So, to work in consciousness of Krishna, what does that practically mean for our discussion here? In what mood are we working? Huh? Practically humble servant. All I want to do is serve. Right? Yes. And of course we also accept Krishna's recommendations, Krishna's instruction. So if we act like that, we can overcome all the obstacles of conditioned life by His grace. So it means to be servant actually offers the solution to every problem. It may sound simplistic, but it's not. Let us look as an example of everyday life in an ISKCON temple. Let us imagine we are the temple president, and then some more senior, authority, GBC, comes one day to us and says, "Oh, Prabhu, we're thinking maybe somebody else should do that service." If we are in the mood of servant, will not be an issue, right? We will say, okay, fine. I thought I could serve you all in the capacity of temple president, but if you have some other idea, okay, let me know. Everybody switch off your phones, my God. Oof. Yes, if we have that mood, all I want to serve, let me know how I can serve you. It will not be an issue, No tension, no quarrels, no conflicts. Okay, fine, all I want to do is serve. But unfortunately, it usually doesn't go that way, right? Yes, anybody who's been around in ISKCON for a while, we've witnessed so many things, right? How sometimes there's a whole battle, a whole conflict or politics you know, because people don't want to let go of their positions. And I've been scratching my head thinking, well, the Shastra is promising detachment. So it seems like we're doing something wrong, you know, that sometimes after 30, 40 years still we are hanging on to our titles and positions, you know. If we don't observe these things, we may come to the conclusion that the process of bhakti is not working. You know, we may be thinking, oh, a person is chanting Hare Krishna for 40 years and still all these attachments, oh, well, it doesn't work. No, it does work if we are willing to do the internal work. But if we don't, then we maintain very nicely all these attachments, you know, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter, because it's so subtle, you know, yeah. Yeah, so let's look at the other option. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. Yes. At the latest, we will be lost at the moment of death, when we have to do another round in the material world, but usually already much before we are lost. Because as I entitled the book, false ego is our constant companion and troublemaker. It always creates our miseries in life. And this is a very practical thing. When we look back in our life and we look at situations where we were frustrated, where we were struggling, now looking back, most likely we can see, yes, I was acting on false ego. I tried to prove something that I know better. I wanted to be the hero who saved it. I wanted to take control and. You know, at that time, we may not be able to see it. But looking back, maybe we received a little bit of purification, and then we will realize, yes, you know, this was false ego. No surprise that I was miserable. So being a servant always offers the solution. Again, also in marriage problems or in every dispute, tension, if we make these 2 steps back and we ask ourselves, am I a humble servant here, or am I trying to dominate and be the master and the controller? You know? And if we really honestly reflect, we will detect, I am not humble servant, and that's why I'm experiencing some misery here. And as soon as we accept the mood of servant, it all falls into its place, you know? Yeah, and then no problem, yeah. So now, this verse also gives us another information. That there is 2 motivating forces in life. In material life, the path to success is ambitiousness, false ego. I want to become a doctor, a lawyer, IT expert, this, that, the other thing. So we take some designation which looks very promising, that it will give us some good false ego gratification. I am somebody, a PhD, professor, whatever. So that's one motivating force, right? And even when we join Krishna consciousness, we may maintain this motivating force easily. because that's what we are used to, you know? Yeah. That we take this into our Krishna consciousness. I want to become a guru, a sannyasi, a GBC, a worldwide traveling preacher, whatever. So that is the ambitious false ego motivation. But as Vaishnavas, we have a different motivating force. What's our Vaishnav motivating force? What? Yes, all I want to do is serve. That's all I want to do, serve, serve, serve. And it's interesting, Paramatma in the heart will witness that and will arrange the right opportunities, the right doors opening to us. We don't have to plan a whole career in Krishna consciousness. No need. It really works that way. No need. All we have to do is sacrifice ourselves in selfless service, giving our very best in service. And from that, everything else will come. Yeah. It's like that. And it's very natural and practical, you know, that naturally our authorities will recognize, oh, this person is really responsible, reliable, doing things at their best. So maybe he can do a bit more service, or she. So that attracts, you know, more service opportunities. Just sacrificing ourselves in service. Yeah. And especially in regards to preaching, if we want to make some little contribution to Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, we actually need some little bit of empowerment. We need some blessings. We need some mercy. So, and the way to get it is by being willing to perform tapasya. Yeah, there's a whole section in the Bhagavatam where Prabhupada says, an easy-going life and progress in Krishna consciousness do not go together. No room for easy-going life. I really like that one of my favorites. No room for easy-going life. We have to have that spirit of sacrificing ourselves, getting out of our comfort zone, you know, giving up all these considerations of my convenience, my personal comfort, what's good for me, you know. This will not attract Krishna's merciful glance. But if a devotee selflessly sacrifices himself, that conquers Krishna's heart, actually. And then he will give blessings and empowerment and, you know. But the ambitious path will not lead to empowerment. Maybe we will become very expert to make some big impressive performance there, you know, but we will not be able to transform people's heart. For that we need empowerment. Yeah. And the way to get it is not through ambitiousness, but sacrificing ourselves. Yeah. And we can see, you know, the first generation Prabhupada disciples, those who are still around, they all had that mood to sacrifice themselves for Prabhupada. And that's what empowered them, so they could do wonderful things, you know. Like in the early days, there was not even any Bhakti Shastri courses and this and that. That all came much later, you know, but simply because of the spirit of sacrifice that, you know, empowered them. Yeah. And somehow I'm lamenting a little bit because that spirit is getting a little lost. Even when I joined in 85 in Australia, we were doing amazing things, sacrificing ourselves, being up all night on book distribution and oh my God, yes. But the spirit now is kind of gone, Everybody stays in their comfort zone. Everybody's pretty independent. I want to do this, I want to go there. I mean, in my early days of Krishna consciousness, we didn't have that, Yeah, we were working strictly under the guidance of our seniors, and we were out there all day on Sankirtan. We didn't come home for lunch and all this. Morning 8:30 we drove out the gate, evening 5, 6 o'clock we came back. The whole day we were just sitting down on some park bench, quickly eating something, and out again. That was the spirit. Yeah, but that is getting a little lost, unfortunately, Yes. So I'm convinced, in all humility, whatever little preaching I can do, it comes as a result of that spirit of sacrifice we had. Yeah. Because I'm not very learned, I'm not a pundit, and there's many things I don't know. But I have a few strong convictions and realizations, and they're given from Krishna, actually. They're revealed, yeah, proportionally to how much we are willing to sacrifice. Yeah. That's the secret, not that ambitious false ego drive there. But saying all this, let me also express that there is some little benefit of the false ego also. It's not all bad, because at least the false ego gets us moving. It gets us going. We can say, okay, false ego should be given up, but not too quickly. Not too quickly before we have cultivated the mood of wanting to serve. Because if we give up the false ego before then, we just end up in tamaguna and we do nothing, But false ego, at least it gets us moving. But we have to know, we have to understand that we are actually meant to transform our motivating force. In the beginning, when we come to Krishna consciousness, our motivation to serve Guru and Krishna is not that developed yet. But the false ego motivating force is stronger. So all right, but gradually we have to purify, And for example, we have Prabhupada Marathon coming up. So Prabhupada was very expert. He could see, if we read out the scores, so that gets us going. False ego, yes, of course. I remember when I was a young devotee and going out on Sankirtan, when we had a small day, we would not even hand in the scores. We would not hand in the result. Better no result than a small one. That's false ego, And we kept it for the next day. And we were adding it on the next day. Yes, all these things, false ego. All right, neophyte, let the person be motivated by false ego. But eventually we have to purify it. We have to simply become attached to doing that service on the street there, no matter how the result is, and only then we can last, Yes, yes. And also interesting, Grihastha life actually requires that sense of ownership. My house, my wife, my children, that motivates us, right? Yes. So there is also a good aspect in it. Yeah. But eventually, again, you know, the grihastha, that's why grihastha should give in charity, that purifies this I, me and mine thing. And gradually, when the kids are 16, 17, you know, we have to allow them to establish themselves in life, doesn't matter what direction they take. We have to allow them, you know. Yes. And then we realize, actually, they're not my children. Krishna just put them in our care for a few years, but they're actually Krishna's children, you know. Yes. So it's a whole purifying journey, you know. But some little good part is there. Like also, I like to give this example. Here in India, it's maybe not so understandable, because here in India, the temples have money to pay for drivers who take care of the car, right? But in Europe, America, we cannot do this. The temples don't have the money to pay a driver who washes the car and all that. You would have to pay him 2.5 lakh per month, you know. That's the wage in Europe. So in Europe, we don't have employed drivers. Everybody drives the temple car, you know. And as a result, the temple cars don't look so good. They're bashed around. Nobody washes them, nobody services them. You know, everybody uses them, puts scratches in, and. So the temple cars often look terrible. But if it is my car, oh, then I take very nicely care. It's my car. Don't you scratch up my car. You know, so then we take care of nicely, you know. So when I was living in the temple 40 years ago, I had my Sankirtan car. That's the secret, to put the temple car in somebody's care. And then the false ego motivates us. It's my car, you have to ask me for permission if you want to use it, and make sure you bring it back nice and clean and without scratches. And you know, so false ego helps us to actually become responsible, you know, especially also in married life, you know. It really channels our energy in a responsible and dutiful direction, you know. Yeah, so it's like, I like to see it as Krishna's trick, how to trick us into becoming servant. Also being mother and wife, most natural way to become humble servant. So Krishna is tricking us, you know, by giving us a couple of kids. So now we have to serve, we have to run, whether we like it or not. So it's all Krishna's system, how to teach us. If we have children in Krishna consciousness, then it is a whole purifying journey. But if we have family without Krishna consciousness, that's binding and entangling, you know. Yes. Yeah, so it's not all bad, you know. It's got a few good things to it too. So let me see, this is more or less all we can present today, even though there's so much more to say. But let me see if we have any more topics for discussion. Any more questions? Yes, where's the mic?
Hare. Thanks, Mataji. Can pure chanting, when we endeavor to chant purely, will that improve the qualities, or will that wade away all the anarthas like this false ego, envy, etc.? So if we focus on chanting more...
Yeah. Well, if you really want to get some deeper insights into chanting, please join us in our Holy Name Retreat in Ekachakra. Very powerful experience, because this is one of my humble missions, that I'm convinced we are not making enough effort to get on deeper levels of chanting. We take it very lightly and cheaply, just blabbering something on the counter while we're doing this and that. We can't even call this chanting the holy name. Whole big topic. But one thing, let me just very briefly answer to your question. And I'm just giving the essence now. It's a whole big discussion, but just the essence. The holy name should be chanted with a deep longing to serve. Longing to serve. In the Holy Name Retreat, we do exercises in this. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, if we chant the holy name without longing to serve, it's useless. Because only when we chant, longing deeply from the heart, longing to serve, turning mindfully to Krishna. Oh Krishna, I know you're there. Please let me serve. All I want to do is serve you and your devotees. Only that kind of chanting purifies us from all these false designations. It scrubs the heart. Yeah. And very practical and simple. If we chant every day our japa, longing to serve, even if we don't manage to chant all 16 rounds like that, but at least we are trying. Sooner or later, we will get the point. I am servant. Right? Very simple and logical. If we chant every day, longing to serve, we will get the point sooner or later. I'm servant, nothing else. That's how it works. So it's actually very simple, and yet it's very deep and profound, actually. Yeah. And when we join a Holy Name Retreat and we do these exercises, we realize how difficult it is, even at a Holy Name Retreat. What to speak of just, wandering around, blabbering something. Yes. On these retreats, sometimes I have also Prabhupada disciples there. Actually, this year, Chandramouli Swami registered. He came already once before, he's coming again. And sometimes I had Prabhupada disciples with tears in their eyes sharing. At the final sharing session, they share. My God, I realize I haven't even started chanting the holy name yet. I've been doing something else for the last 45, 50 years. I haven't even started yet. These realizations sometimes people get. Yes. And I'm not taking the credit here. No, it's just the effect. When we go in seclusion, when we leave everything behind and we have this mood, nothing is more important than the holy name. Everything can wait. I even request people to switch off their phone for the whole time of the retreat. Not many people can do it. People are so addicted to the phone. I live without a phone. I don't have one. And I don't want one, so don't buy me one. I travel the whole world without a phone. Too much distraction. People often ask me, how do you get anything done without a phone? You know what I ask them? How do you get anything done with a phone? I'm busy, I'm writing books, I have to send them out, coordinate my whole thing. I'm every week in a different city, different country. I don't have time for phone, my God. Yes. Yes. Yeah, so the phones are the biggest distraction and the biggest disease. People get so attached to it. I've been accompanying some people in this last phase of life before they leave their body. And sometimes people are so attached to the phone, even at that stage. They sleep with the phone on the bed, up to the last breath, they're there with the phone. Yes, it's terrible. And it keeps us in this world. I remember once one Mataji said to me, I'm actually ready to go. And I said, as long as you can't switch off your phone, you're hanging on to this world, you're not ready to go. Yes. Can you pass me these books, please? All of them. I want to quickly share what these books are all about, because they're all important topics, and I feel this great urgency to get these books into people's hands. Spiritual Culture, Krishna's Divine System. This book is actually all about women. We women have a very powerful Shakti. Bhagavatam says woman's energy much more powerful than man's energy. And Bhagavatam also says we should be the power of inspiration to the men and not compete with them. I'm sure some of you may like to hear this. Because now man-woman equality, the women compete with the men. And usually the men don't like that very much. Maybe your ladies noticed it. And it actually weakens the men. Very interesting and fascinating to discover how Krishna's system is meant to function. Yes, that most men need that feminine energy to be empowered. And if they don't get it, they become weak. That's why in Kali Yuga, the men become more and more weak and irresponsible and useless. And you can see it in the Western world, because there the women themselves want to be the hero and not make the man the hero. And as a result, they become like wimps, sorry to say, completely irresponsible and lethargic and undecisive and, But here in India, the culture is still a little there, and here the men are much more responsible and, they take charge and. Yeah, so you can really see it. And this man-woman equality comes into India too. So when you read this book, you will realize very clearly how this man-woman equality puts the whole human society upside down. And Prabhupada knew it all, he said it all. But we are so conditioned by this man-woman equality. It's actually bodily platform, Equality is on the level of the soul, but not on the level of the body. Yeah, so every woman should read this book if she wants to have harmonious relationships with men in her life. And every man should also read this book to understand how Krishna's system is meant to function and how he can get this empowerment and support of a woman. And this book is also used as a handbook for brahmachari training. And all the big temples in India, Chaupadi, Pune, they all have this in the brahmachari ashram. So that the men also understand, that this man-woman equality is not what we should invite into our life. They have to be able to preach it. So then we have sheltering relationships. So this is all about the topic of counselor. We mentioned it a few times, how important it is to have a counselor and eventually become one to others. So when you read this book, you will be convinced of this. And there's also a chapter on envy, what we discuss on Tuesday morning, how envy manifests towards seniors equals juniors. culture of correcting others, culture of respect, so many important topics. Then we have the false ego, constant companion and troublemaker. So I'm sure we got some little insight what this book is all about. But there's so much more, like when we get offended, when we can't forgive, it's the false ego crying for justice, and. And there is a whole chapter on chanting. There's a summary of a holy name retreat in there. Because Trinada Pisune Chennai, so obviously false ego and the holy name, it's a powerful combination, you know, yeah. Gives a lot of practical good insights. And these 5 steps you have, of course, in this book, you know, and so many more things. Then we have entering the Grihastha ashram. This is a handbook for matchmaking. How to see that a boy and a girl are compatible for marriage. We need a bit of help with this in India. Yes, people now, they have lost this knowledge how to match people up. People only look at caste and money, maybe good looks, and that's it. Or the devotional levels of compatibility, people don't even look at. And worst is that people don't give the two enough time to talk about things, you know? And very often now in India, we see people get divorced after 3 or 6 months because then they had enough time to realize we don't match. So in this book you will find a whole list of over 200 topics which a boy and a girl should discuss with a cool head to see, are we on the same page? Do we have same moods, goals, interests, standards, and. Yeah. Very important. So we have to fine-tune our matchmaking a little. Otherwise, we come to the other extreme, the love marriage, which I like to call the lust marriage. Doesn't sound so romantic anymore, but it is exactly that, lust marriage. So that experience we have in the West, not a solution, increases even more the divorce rate. Now we have to fine-tune our matchmaking. So this is a must for those who are not married yet, for the parents, you know, for Bhakti Viksha leaders, matchmakers, anybody who wants to help people to settle in a harmonious and stable marriages. And then we have Family Life as an Ashram, Secrets of Success. So this is a handbook for Krishna conscious married life. How to create the culture of bhakti in our home. As I mentioned, many devotees' family life, we cannot call it an ashram. It's not a suitable place for cultivating bhakti. And that gives married life a bad name. Then people think, oh, these grihasthas can't make advancement. No, there's nothing wrong with the grihastha ashram. You know, most of our previous acharyas, they were grihasthas, but their family life was an ashram, whereas ours is often not. So this is a very practical guide, how to really spiritualize your family life. And if kids grow into this culture of bhakti, they very naturally become devotees, very naturally, you know. And in this book you also find a chapter on physical intimacy in marriage. How to live this principle of no illicit sex life. There's a bit of confusion over this in ISKCON. Nobody talks about it, especially here in India. And people are often at a loss how to make things work. So I did some research and I came across interesting episodes with Prabhupada, where he says things which most of us have not heard, because it's not in the Bhagavatam. Shastra always gives the highest goal to strive for. But everything in Krishna consciousness is a gradual process, everything. And that one also. But if we artificially try to jump from one day to the other, to the highest level, that creates again difficulties, marriage problems, divorce. And Prabhupada on the one-to-one, he was very clear in it, shockingly clear. Yeah. So, yeah, please, anybody who is in family life should get that book. It should be in the household of every family. So, and then last but not least, the Vanaprastha ashram, meeting death with joy. There's a whole chapter on death. What happens on the subtle level, how to prepare, how to support others. By Krishna's arrangement, I accompanied quite a few persons in this final journey. Very important. My own parents, I captured the moment when I had to fly back to Germany. I parked all my traveling, cancelled all my flights back to Germany. I kept them at home. I helped them to focus, let go, move out. And both of my parents had an amazing departure, even though they were not regularly chanting Hare Krishna, you know. So all our life, we need good association, especially in this last phase. We have to know what to consider, what to do, what not to do. You know, whole big topic. What's the use of all our preaching? If this last phase, we are not there for each other, we don't know what to do. And Vanaprastha, of course, I call it the forgotten ashram. It's not established. Nobody even talks about it. Nobody plans for it. Nobody knows how to live it, you know? Even though Bhagavatam is full of very clear statements, you know, so that's exactly why we need some complementary literature to understand what Prabhupada is saying in the Bhagavatam. And I'm making this joke. I'm saying Prabhupada emphasizes 50, right? When we are 50, we should move on to the Vanaprastha ashram. So I'm making this joke. I'm saying, ISKCON is 50 now. So it's time to understand the Vanaprastha ashram. Very practical, easy to follow, you know. Yeah, I give all different, I extricate the principles of forest life, give very clear guidance and guidelines, how to live this last phase in life. And even young people should educate themselves, you know, then they will plan their life properly. Because this training is not there. And in Europe, in the Western world, often the men get married when they're 49, and then they start with babies. Oh, well, you missed the boat of the Vanaprastha ashram already, you know. Yes, but Prabhupada makes strong statements. He says, if anybody stays in family life until the moment of death, that's suicide. No gentleman will stay in family life until the time of death, you know. Yes, we have to hear these things and understand this is for me, you know. And non-devotees, they meditate on their retirement for 30 years. How they're going to enjoy life one more time to the max but we devotees, we don't even think about this, you know. So it requires some meditation, some cultivation and. So now, if anybody of you want to get some books, these last 4 books, they are 350 each. The first 2 are 300 each. Many people already got the whole set, which comes to 2,000 rupees. So one thing, as you can see, there's actually not many books on the book table. There's only Bhagavatams to prop up the books. So what we do now, I'm out of stock. I have only one Vanaprastha book left. So, but what I'm doing is I take orders. I have already a whole list of orders. So we put your name down, phone number, we tick which books you want, if you trust me, you pay me already now, because I'll be gone on Wednesday and it will be hard for me to get the money. So you pay me already now. Then in 2 weeks' time, I send another 1 or 2 boxes to the temple. What's his name? Murli. To Murli Prabhu. No, that's the code. Murli Prabhu, he accepts the responsibility to make sure that everybody who ordered books will get them. So he will simply inform, he will send out a notice, anybody who ordered books of Devaki Mataji, the books are here, please come on Sunday, there will be a book table and you get your books. That's the system I'll follow. Because for me, impossible to understand how many copies of each title I need. So I always send a few boxes up front. We had 2 boxes, they all flew out in the first 2 days. So now we just take orders and I send more from Mayapur. Takes 10 days or something, not so long. Okay, so thank you so much for your kind attention. And anybody who wants books, please come right now. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveda Bhaktanda ki, Gaur